Welcome to the third video of the Introduction to IFS Theory. In this video, I'm going to be covering this, protectors in detail, with questions like, what are protectors, understanding positive intent, and distinguishing between managers and firefighters. So, what are protectors? In general, protectors are parts that are trying to protect us from stuff. And I kept stuff intentionally very unclear because it can be very different depending on each protector, what they are trying to protect us from. But in general, it falls under two categories. Protectors are trying to protect us from situations in real life, meaning they could try to protect us from being rejected by being super nice so that nobody could ever reject us. They could try to protect us from loss, meaning we try to take care of other people as well as we can so we don't lose them. Of failure by working as hard as we can so we don't fail. Or loneliness, meaning being alone and trying to do everything to avoid being lonely in real life. So that's option number one, protectors that are working hard to try to avoid specific situations or things that could happen in real life. The second category of stuff they are trying to protect us from is pain in our inner world. And pain, again, very general because I think it can be very different types of pain or of burdens we're carrying, which could mean they're trying to protect us in such a way that certain exiles and their burdens are not coming up, that specific memories are not met again, so they avoid specific situations or numb us when we get to those situations, that certain emotions are not felt because those emotions might be associated with burdens, with pain from the past, or that specific somatic activation that we're still carrying with us, often after decades of being in the past, are not activated again. So protectors are trying to protect us from stuff, and stuff being these situations that could happen to us in real life, so they do whatever they need to do to get around that, or pain that is in our inner world that they don't want us to feel or get in touch with again. In the last video, we already talked about parts being kind of like little people. So they have their own perspectives, motivations, beliefs, feelings, memories, and behavior. So perspectives, motivations, feelings, beliefs, memories also often here, and behavior. And protectors are parts, so the same is true for them. And the same, as we had in the last video, also about protectors can be activated or blended, meaning if they're activated, we are influenced by them, but there's still some distance between the protector and us and the self, or they can be blended with the self, meaning completely taking us over. All of those principles about parts in general apply to protectors as well. And one really important element to try and understand protectors is positive intent. I've mentioned it a couple of times in the past videos. Basically, positive intent is the perspective that every single protector is trying to achieve something positive through their perspective for our system. In essence, you could say the positive intent protectors have is what they are trying to protect us from. So this could mean by avoiding specific situations, meaning I will never again be in that situation or feel like that, they are trying to protect, and their positive intent is that we never again feel like that. By achieving specific situations, for instance, being so nice, being so helpful, being so high achieving that we are safe, which means bad things don't happen to us again, or doing everything to try to keep emotions and memories, exiles, down or out of awareness in the system so we don't feel that again. This is their positive intent. The positive intent of protectors is trying to protect us from specific stuff. Now, there are two types of protectors within internal family system, meaning two ways that protectors are trying to protect us from specific situations or feelings, emotions, burdens from the past, which are the managers and the firefighters. Now, managers are protectors that work proactively. What does that mean? Basically, as a manager, a part will try to control our life, your life, my life, in such a way that specific bad situations don't show up, that specific feelings aren't even touched. And you could look at managers as trying to avoid things through control. They are trying to control your life, your behaviors, your thoughts, your feelings, etc., in such a way that the things they're trying to avoid aren't even showing up. This could, for instance, mean working really hard so that you're safe. This could mean trying to keep everything together so emotions don't come up. All of those would be manager behaviors, proactively staying away from situations or pain. Firefighters are the total opposite, where managers are proactive, firefighters are reactive, meaning firefighters will, like firefighters in real life, come up when there is a fire, when there is a burden, an exile coming up, a feeling, an emotion suddenly being felt again, and they will do whatever they have to, just like in a burning house. It's a lot of times the firefighters, the water, that actually produces more damage than the fire itself. They will do whatever it takes to get away from that feeling. So this could be binging, watching TV, zoning out, all of those things. They would be ways that firefighters are basically trying to keep away from that. Don't do that. So to give you a few more examples, managerial behaviors would be more like task mastering. Do this, do this, do this, do this. It could be, I am super nice and constantly being very nice to everybody so that I don't even get into dangerous situations. Or it could be making myself small or big, trying to make sure through that I am proactively safe. Now, firefighters would be much more like, oh, I'm feeling something I don't want to feel. Let's watch TV for 5 hours and zone out. More dissociative behavior. It could mean eating so much that I don't feel anymore. It could mean taking any type of drug, basically to get away from whatever the feeling is that has been underneath. And if we look at it like that, as saying managers are trying to control our life, firefighters are trying to make sure that once an exile or a certain burden or pain has been touched, it doesn't come up, we can basically understand that in many ways our inner world is organized around our exiles. Our protectors, our managers, are trying to avoid specific situations so that exiles don't get triggered, or that I achieve certain things in life, trying to make sure that that means these experiences don't happen again. And firefighters are constantly looking out for the exiles and their pain, trying to keep them down. So basically we can look at the inner system as there are specific exiles, and we all have different ones. And around those, our system intelligently, because it was the best way of dealing with pain we couldn't digest in our life, built defensive strategies, protective strategies, to make sure that we can navigate life with this vulnerability in our system. So our system is organized around exiles, and we have multiple places where we have similar setups with exiles and protectors and managers and firefighters. It might be that they show completely different burdens, completely different strategies, etc., etc., but it is still the same principle of protectors being organized around exiles. And as a last thought, before we close this video, I want to make sure that we understand that a really important principle is that protectors are not their roles. So parts do certain things, zoning out, working really hard, but they are not the same as those behaviors. Parts are using these behaviors, trying to make sure that we stay safe, that we avoid exiles, that we avoid dangerous situations. But even though they fulfill their role, they often don't want to. If parts could choose, and this is actually an element of the therapeutic aspect of IFS, if parts could choose, if protectors could choose, they'd often would love to do different things or do what they do differently. So they are doing it because they had to, because they often think they still have to, and maybe some do, but oftentimes we can find different solutions. They're doing it because they had and have to, but they often don't want to. And this is actually a very powerful place where we can create change within the IFS model. Now, I hope this video was helpful to you. If it is, please forward it to anybody who you think could benefit from this. In the next videos, we're going to be covering exiles, self, etc., etc. So see you in the next video.
You never know what's around the next corner. So.